you talk about how these series came to a head and what has been happening in this postseason for the Yanks. Offensively, it hasn't been Aaron Judge.
Baseball is such a big win here. All you ask for, East Coast Monster City, West Coast Monster City, the biggest of biggest Titan superstars on both sides here, two mammoth fan bases. The entire country can buy into this one.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to Fantasy Sports today here on SportsGrid. We're going to take a look at some players that maybe you're considering dropping in fantasy football, or maybe it's just time to hold them. So George and I will go through it, and obviously take these with a grain of salt, folks. I mean, your league, based on your setup, how many roster places you have for your players, you may not want to cut these guys. Or maybe you're playing in a 10-team league and it's time to move on. George, it's a little stunning here to start off with this player in particular. Marvin Harrison Jr., who was, like a first, second round pick in pretty much every fantasy draft. 20 receptions, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. And here's the situation. Every year is different in fantasy. Sometimes the receiver, George, is Jefferson, and the guy is a first round pick. Sometimes it's Harrison, and the guy ends up not grading out as a third round pick or even fourth round pick. But George, in what scenario would you cut Marvin Harrison? I can't do it. I got to hold Marvin Harrison right now. I can't cut him.
I probably can't cut him, but I can also not start him. That's probably much where I'm going with this. That being said, anybody who does want to cut him, by the way, he's got a little quick math here, 166 yards total over his last 5 weeks. All right, that is 33 yards a week? That is awful. All right, he's not doing anything for you right now. He does have 2 touchdowns, though, so he's become extremely touchdown dependent here. If you watch the game Sunday night, his body language was not good. And then he had a big drop at the end as well. So there are red flags here, Craig. There are definitely a lot of red flags here. And Kyler Murray also doesn't seem to look for him at times, because there are times he is open, by the way. And Kyler didn't look his way. And you can see the frustration. He's a kid. You can see the frustration on his face during these times. He slinks back to the huddle. He's all, you can't do that in the NFL. I'm not dropping him, okay? But I'm not starting him. I have him in 2 leagues. I'm not starting him this week in either one. And those aren't leagues where I'm strong at, it's an easy choice. No, I'm starting guy. I'd rather have Harrison, but I don't think it's a great matchup for him this week. And I just need to see something. Like I said, last 5 weeks, Craig, 166 yards total.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's been weak. Okay, so the Jets get Devontae Adams. Garrett Wilson, who was fantastic with quarterbacks you've never heard of last year, hasn't really had the same season. Let's just keep it real. 46 receptions, 460 yards, 3 touchdowns. But George, this is the same scenario for me, man. There's just no way that I could cut him. This is an absolute hold here just to see what happens. I understand no targets, no yards, no touchdowns. Clearly, Rodgers is going to like Adams more, maybe even Lazard more, but hold for me here.
Absolutely, he's a hold. All right, I had no problem with what he did last week. I didn't like the drop, the one that hit him right in the chest and that led to the interception. which Rodgers then took blame for, which I don't understand at all, but whatever. Rodgers is a weird dude. He's sort of making up for throwing Mike Williams under the bus the week before. But I had no issues with Wilson. I thought he was okay. He was still a part of the game plan. Yeah, are they going to throw the ball with Devontae Adams? Of course. Hell, Devontae Adams is living with Aaron Rodgers, so he's making sure he's in Rodgers' ear all the time. But keep in mind, fantasy-wise, over the first, 8 games of the season, 7 games of the season, the Jets had the hardest schedule for a quarterback. Over the next 10, it's one of the easiest. So theoretically, things should be getting better for the entire Jets offense here. New England, Houston, Arizona, Indianapolis, Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, Rams. Those are the next games for the Jets. All right, things should be getting better for Rodgers, for Wilson, Conklin, Adams, Lazard. All right, so Wilson's still in my lineup, and I'm not dropping any of my Jets.
All right, so now here's an interesting one because you may want to wait to see what happens here. Very peculiar comments from Dave Canales, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, on Deontay Johnson going into this weekend. It does feel like he's got some sort of phantom non-injury, and they're looking to trade him. Carolina's awful. Bryce Young is starting again. Deontay Johnson, 30 receptions, 357 yards on the season, 3 touchdowns. A lot of speculation that he goes back to Pittsburgh. I don't know that that's going to really help him or hurt him or what that exactly would do, but I guess, George, I'm on the fence here with this. I don't know. I don't think he's going to end up anywhere where I'm starting him again, so eventually he could be a drop. But, who's to say the Cowboys don't call tomorrow and all of a sudden he's there and, Dak's throwing to him? I may just hold one more week just to see. But if he ends up in a bad spot, I could see cutting him. And by the way, if he stays with Carolina, I could cut him.
Yeah, I was going to agree with you. He's not going to play Sunday, right? He's out with the rib injury, or what they're saying is a rib injury. Because I sort of agree with you. I think there is something else going on here. All right, because we were told, I think it was Thursday, that although he was on the report with the ribs, that he was likely to play. And then Friday he was out. It was just strange what's going on there. And we know he's sort of a head case. Pittsburgh couldn't wait to get rid of him. All right, now he's got problems with Carolina. By the way, before it's for the Cowboys, Jerry Jones says they're not making any additions. That could just be, once again, play just to get the price down, because I think they do need additions, and the Cowboys should have a truckload of draft picks next year with compensatory picks for all the free agents they lost. So they do have room to move here. I think Deontay Johnson will be traded. All right, but as you said, that may not be great. I don't know where he's going, and it's not baseball. All right, go hit the ball. You got to get with the quarterback. You got to know the offense. You get the chemistry here. Run the right, all that, everything that goes along with it. It could be a while here. I know receivers are getting traded all over the place. It's a danger, right? It's just a danger here. But I think he does get moved. But if you want to move on from him, I'm not against it. I'm not. There's something else you got to go here. Once again, you're 2-5. You got to do what you got to do now. I don't see this player being, you can be like, I wish I didn't drop him. Yeah, I don't see this being that kind of guy.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I have this dilemma with Jameson Williams. I've held him for now. I don't know what I'm doing here, honestly. I probably could cut him. 2 weeks of not seeing this guy, I would guess no matter what, George, when he comes back, I'm probably not going to start him again. I just don't see a ton of players to pick up for him at this point, but I am going to hit the drop button here and say, if you feel like you could pick up another receiver that you think that can help over the next few weeks. And then the other question you have to ask yourself is this too, is that your team, if you're in a playoff position, your team is probably pretty good. The fantasy playoffs start in like 5 weeks from now. What are the odds that you're starting this guy in the fantasy football playoffs? Probably none. I'll say drop.
I certainly lean towards drop, especially with the parameters you just mentioned there. Right, there's someone else out there who can help you now. You need help now. He's not helping you this week and next. But, man, the schedule, I know this isn't, you can't always go by schedule. Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Chicago. Those are the 4 games when he comes back. The opportunities will be there. But he's not a volume guy. So he's sort of like to be that guy where you need the big play. If he gets the 45-yard touchdown, hey, big play. But he's not going to be the guy who goes, 7 catches, 122 yards and a score. That's not him. He's going to be the guy who goes 3 for 80 and a touchdown. See, without that touchdown, it's just not there, which is why I don't want to drop him, and you shouldn't have to drop him this week, right? Because you should have full roster, fine. But next week, and I really should look to make sure there are buys next week with the NFL, this crazy buy system.
Right.
But assuming there are, maybe you're down. I don't know. And by the way, you might want to think ahead. Maybe you drop Jameson Williams now because, hey, I don't need him. I don't care about this week, but next week I need this guy. And this guy's available now, where next week it's going to cost more if I wait. So you always think ahead as well here. So I have no problem with anybody who does drop him.
Yeah, and we close out. Is this a prank, Sam? Why do we? Yeah, we're talking about Mark Andrews. We're not. I mean, Mark Andrews is the hottest tight end in fantasy football right now. Hold, start, put him in, play him. He's back. I mean, he's probably like the number 2 tight end now.
I didn't start him last week, Greg. I didn't start him last week.
What? I started him. I rolled.
It was him or Ingram.
Touchdowns. I won because of him.
I won anyway, but it was him or Ingram. And I started Ingram. I thought Ingram had the better matchup. Keep in mind, now listen, Ingram's is a hold, no doubt. He only played 51% of the snaps. Without those touchdowns,
he's a tight end. He could play 10%.
Without those touchdowns, we would be bitching and moaning right now about him. Again,
if he scores on 1 catch for 6 yards every week, he's the best tight end in fantasy football. That's how sad the season. Well, no, Brock Bowers is the best. Brock Bowers is the best. He's the second best tight end in fantasy football. If he does that, we'll hit on quarterbacks next. Don't go away.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
thinking!
But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game when it was the worst flare screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. So here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take!
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
If you have a roster crunch in fantasy football, a little hold or drop, we continue our discussion. Craig Mish along with George Kurtz with you here on the show. Let's go back to the quarterback position in fantasy. And, honestly, if you don't lose points for interceptions in your fantasy league, you're looking at Aaron Rodgers with 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean, he's not a QB1, but startable. If you lose points for interceptions, this is a horrible, horrible season for Aaron Rodgers, if indeed that is the case. But I'm looking at a lot of the teams and a lot of leagues that I play in, George. He's on the waiver wire. He's on the waiver wire in most of the leagues that I'm playing in. He was cut in a lot of leagues this week after last week. I mean, look, if you got Devontae Adams and you're still not doing it, are you ever going to do it? Matchups getting a little bit better, I guess, for him. But I could see people cutting him. I mean, again, another player. When outside of a bye week or a 2-quarterback league, when would you start him?
Well, you just said it. In a 1-quarterback league, you're not starting him. All right, you're not. I don't. Could he have quarterback 1 weeks? Of course, everybody can. But I can name you 12, 10, especially a 10-team league. I can name you 10, 12 quarterbacks I'd rather start over them every week. It's not even close. That being said, I mentioned earlier, his schedule is nice now. The Jets, overall, as far as fantasy for quarterbacks, have had one of the worst schedules period so far. But that does a 180 now over the rest of the season. All right, mentioned it earlier. New England, Houston, Arizona, Indianapolis, Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, Rams. The Buffalo game's tough. Miami game, you're probably not playing fantasy in week 18. So it's a very nice fantasy schedule for quarterbacks. But I'm only doing this in a 2-quarterback league. All right, Superflex, or you start 2 quarterbacks. In a 1-quarterback league, no. Like I said, I assume my number 1 quarterback. Will there be weeks I'm starting over Dak Prescott? Sure. Anthony Richardson, that's a bust. All right, absolutely. If that's your only choices here, sure. But otherwise, no. It's a 2-quarterback league for me, and I have been two 2-quarterback leagues, and I'm debating this week. Do I start over Trevor Lawrence, or do I start him over Geno Smith? In both leagues, I am literally debating here. I've decided I'm going to cut my losses here. I'll do it over Lawrence. I'll leave Geno Smith. This way I don't get screwed in both leagues if Rodgers poops the bed.
I mean, what's funny with Lawrence is that every week is the same. It's 15, 16 every week. So maybe if you like that underwhelming inconsistency, that's what it is, or consistency, that's what it is. I mean, every week it's 250 and 1 touchdown. So George, if that's what you want, that's what you're going to get from Trevor Lawrence this week. Not more, not less. All right, Justin Fields, you're getting 0s. Wilson came in, played much better than I thought he was going to play last week. I don't know if it's a 1-week wonder, but for me, unlike Rodgers, I'm going to hold Fields 1 more week to see if Wilson does it again. If he doesn't, I still could see them going back to Fields. So if I have the roster spot available, I'm going to keep him. Again, 5 passing touchdowns on the season. He has rushed for some touchdowns as well. This is not the kind of guy I want to cut.
Once again, a 2-quarterback league, probably not. 1-quarterback league, he's gone. I mean, I'm the first person to tell you, by the way, we were wrong about Russell Wilson. He came in, he played solid football. Not so much the first half, but second half was better. But also, a lot of those passes, Craig, were the alley-oop kind. And yeah, he was catching. The receivers made good catches. They weren't great throws, but the receivers made great plays. All right, so I'm still a little wary here. I think we're going to see Fields again, although let's not forget, Tomlin told us last week there were a set number of plays for Fields. Funny, I don't remember seeing him play that game. So those were lies. So I'm wary of that as well. They play the Giants on Monday. I'm going to assume that goes well for Pittsburgh and Russell Wilson. And by the way, how does Pittsburgh get 3 home games on either a Sunday or Monday night in 4 weeks? How does that happen? So I'm talking about some friendly scheduling. I think Fields will play again this year, but not enough where it's going to be a fantasy worthy for us. So I'm willing to move on. I don't want to. I do have him in a league, and I'm crying here. But Tomlin loves Wilson. Wilson's going to play.
Okay. Now we're gonna have a conversation here that no one else is having in fantasy football right now. So I want to be the one to start the conversation. Now, George said the Falcons are going to go in and they're going to crush the Bucs, and he could be right. Kirk Cousins has 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. These are Aaron Rodgers numbers on the season, and Aaron Rodgers is having a horrible year. George, if Kirk Cousins doesn't have a good week, is the Michael Penix Jr. conversation coming? I want to do it here now, before it starts next week on Tuesday, where all of a sudden everyone's running to the waiver wire. Penix. Look, is it likely? No. Would I put a heavy bet on Cousins starting no matter what? Yes. But it's the NFL, man. And I'm telling you now, the likelihood is you're right. Cousins, 250, 2 touchdowns. We have to play the what if he throws for 210, 1 touchdown, 4 picks. And that conversation, we have to do it. It is part of fantasy. I'm going to hold on to Kirk Cousins here, okay? Because I know, you think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be good too. But why is no one talking about that?
I did hear it mentioned one place, by the way, probably someplace on ESPN earlier in the week, but not more of a passing by thing, not deep analysis. I think you bring up a valid point. All right, most top drafted rookie quarterbacks are going to play year one in this day and age. This is not like when you and I were growing up, right? They play. Everyone wants to see the shiny new toy. especially if Cousins. Now, the numbers you brought up for Cousins, by the way, would put him at close to 30 touchdowns, a million interceptions, and almost 5,000 yards. So that's good fantasy numbers. We don't want to lose Cousins, by the way, because you lose Cousins, you lose Drake London, you lose Mooney, you lose Pitts. So it wouldn't be good. That being said, they play Tampa Bay. We know Tampa. He should be able to throw against Tampa Bay. Then they play Dallas. Should be able to throw against Dallas. New Orleans, Denver, back-to-back road games before the bye. Boy, if things go bad over the next month, I think that's where you start biting the nails. Oh God, is he going to start at home against the Chargers in week 13? That's when I start to get nervous
on this after signing him to all that money. Gosh, that would be a bad look for the Falcons. No.
If he's not playing well, I think they would feel, we have no choice, and there'd be some pressure. He'd have to not be playing well. I don't think they will, but I think the talk would be there. Yes.
Yes, the talk would be. I still wouldn't pick him up yet in fantasy, but it's like a closer in baseball. One bad start, you can live with it. 2 bad starts, you have the pressure. You blow 3 saves, you're not the closer in fantasy anymore. You're not the quarterback after 3 bad games in the NFL too. We'll have more of this conversation next, though.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game when it was the worst flare screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. See, here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like this, that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I tend to do this a lot, by the way. I do it more in baseball with the anytime home run, where I may play 4 players hit home run. I call it covering the board. If I take 4 players, bet the same amount on each, I only need to hit 2 of them and I win money.
He's already got, 438 rushing yards on the season. He's looking like the old LT days where the Chargers were able to have that strong, dominant running back.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They lost in Neyland to Tennessee, 24-17. Again, and look, that puts Alabama in a very tough spot. I was looking at the SEC standings just before. They've got 2 losses now in conference because they lost that Vandy game.
They're still one of the top-ranked teams in the country when they lose. Everyone else drops like a brick when they lose, except for Alabama.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports. Today, trade deadline coming up in the NFL soon. That means your fantasy football trade deadline is coming up as well. Is it time to make a trade for any player in fantasy? We're going to go over some potential options. Maybe one of these players is on a team that's not good, and maybe it's a dynasty looking for next year. What can we expect the rest of the season? Let's start off with the San Francisco 49ers. Huge injury this past week to Brandon Ayuk. Really good player, not as good as we thought he would be, or anyone with the money that he got paid. So that leaves Debo and nothing with the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, who is the wide receiver 2 on the 49ers? I don't know. Who's a backup running back on the 49ers? I understand. I know who it is. I don't want to screw his name up again. So for me, I think Debo is a target. I think I'd like to have Debo Samuel. The other thing is when Christian McCaffrey comes back and Mason goes back to being like 1A or 1B, whatever you want to call it, I think Debo's going to see a lot more targets. I think I want him right now. He's had a problem staying healthy now, like the last year or so. But 5-6 games, playoff games with that offense, they already went through the toughest test they had. They failed against Kansas City. It was a miserable game. Not going to play a tougher game than that the rest of the year, George.
I can probably go any direction you want to go here. If I'm 6-1, 7-0, whatever, a good team, and I'm making the playoffs, I want Debo because I don't know what we're going to get from Sunday night. I don't know what strength he's going to be at, the pneumonia and all that. I do think he plays, but then they have a bye week. All right, so it's 2 weeks. I may not be getting what I want from him. So maybe I could steal him from somebody who's they need him. They need somebody good now for a lesser player. And like I said, the reverse holds true. If I'm 3-4, whatever, 2-5, and I need to win, I may not trust him this week, even against the Cowboys. And Davis, I can't stop anybody. This seems to be that just cursed year for the 49ers, right? They're just cursed. Things aren't going well for them. So I do have some worries here. Ayuk being out, in some ways we could look at a bonus because now he would be the number one guy here. Looking at their schedule the rest of the year. After the bye week, Tampa, Seattle, Green Bay, Buffalo, back-to-back is tough. That's before your playoffs, though. During your playoffs, you got Chicago, Rams, at Miami. Detroit would be during your championship week. Just solid. It's not terrible. It's not great. I lean towards wanting him. That's the bottom line. I do lean towards wanting him, but I don't want to pay a heavy price.
All right, let's go to the Bears. DJ Moore, 47 targets this season, 31 receptions, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. Seems to be more of a connection brewing with him and Caleb Williams as of late. I could see his second half being much better than his first half. So another target for me if he's on another team. I'd want him.
Same here. Trade. All right. I do want DJ Moore as well. I think you put it perfectly. I think he'll get better as the season goes along. That chemistry will be there. Caleb Williams is getting better and better here. The schedule is friendly for them here to throw the football. I'm with you. I am trading for DJ Moore.
All right. Now, this is one that's on my team. And, man, I don't want to go off that one game, but he was really not on the field a lot last night, Cooper Kupp. And he's now one of these players, George, I hate to say it, that every time he gets tackled, I'm, like, hoping he gets up. I felt that way yesterday. If somebody wants him, I'm going to trade Cooper Kupp. So I'm going to fade. And he's on one of my teams. He's a big player for me, too. But I'm going to fade him. I think the best we've seen it.
I agree with that 1,000%, by the way. I'd like to trade him, too, if he's on my team. I think it's funny how you said that. He is that guy that, just get up, please. Oh, good. That sort of guy. There's no way he's playing 10 more games this year. All right. He's going to get hurt again. It's going to happen here. Plus, the Rams might trade him. All right. We don't know for sure they're going to keep this. All right. Maybe that's what happens here. And they move on and get rid of the contract. And they may think the same thing as Craig. He can't stay healthy. I got to move on. So, yeah, I'd like to trade him. Well, don't get me wrong. When he's starting, he starts my fantasy team, but I don't want to play this.
He's not on the field. He wasn't on the field. Nakua was on the field more than him yesterday.
Yeah. Which is surprising because Nakua, we didn't even know was going to play until yesterday.
I know. All right. Boy, the Bengals seem to have, turned the ball over more to Chase Brown than they have Zach Moss. I don't know how this is going to play out the rest of the season. But Chase Brown is not a player that I could give away. I could see him being better than Moss the rest of the season, but I also could see Moss still being part of their game plan.
It's the running back. It's hard to get rid of a running back, right? What do I have? I'm probably deep at wide receiver, not at running back, so I got to keep him. I don't really have a choice here. And like I said, maybe this thing switch, or maybe the other guy gets hurt and this guy becomes a starter. No, I'm holding on to him. No choice.
Agreed. All right, we'll take a quick timeout. We'll preview all the games coming up next on Fantasy Sports Today. Don't go away.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today. You ready to take a look at every game in the NFL coming up on Sunday? Well, we are. Craig Mish and George Kurtz. Let's dive right in. Start off with the early games. That's 1 o'clock Eastern for those of you on the East. And if you're somewhere else, then you're in a different time zone. But you knew that. Eagles and Bengals. Let's start off here. High total on the board here, George. Eagles offense comes alive last week. Saquon Barkley goes bananas against his old team in the Giants. And the Bengals a little bit of a tougher road to hoe last week. I'm not really sure why that was the case, but I still really do like their offense. So I suppose Jalen Hurts is back on board and Barkley's back on board. And, of course, their great wide receivers are back on board. And the same thing could be said for the Bengals, although, again, the injury report on T. Higgins said that he is now questionable for the game. At least 5 or 6 good fantasy options from these two teams going into Sunday.
You and I just bashed Cooper Kupp a little bit, right? Is T. Higgins the new Cooper Kupp, by the way? When healthy, he's great, but he's always hurt.
He was never Cooper Kupp.
No, he's not a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 2. He's a damn good wide receiver. He's got a quad injury now, which is concerning. All right, he was put on the injury. This is a late. Well, I must have suffered it in practice on Friday. It's a late injury here, so he starts. I want to start him. Chase goes. Everybody goes. I can't see you having a Bengal or an Eagle and you're not starting him in this game. Now you did say something. They didn't play all that well against the Browns last week.
No.
All right, they only scored 21 points for a game. We thought that was going to be pretty easy. They did win the game, but we thought it'd be an easier win than that. Bottom line is, like I said, if you have an Eagle or a Brown or a Bengal on your team, you're starting him this week. Devonta Smith though, 1 catch last week. That was disappointing. Yeah, they didn't need him. Saquon did all the damage.
Yeah, A.J. Brown, too, with a bomb for a touchdown on 4th down. All right, Packers and Jaguars. Somebody's watching here going, I'm going to start all my Packers. Well, good luck picking which guy is going to score those touchdowns there. I can't figure this out, but Jordan Love is a rock-solid QB1 in fantasy, and so, I guess juggle those receivers and pick your favorite one. Is it going to be Reed? Is it going to be Dobbs? I don't know, but someone's going to probably score for them, maybe even the tight end. Jacobs is a starter at running back 2. For Jacksonville, it gets a little bit dicey. I think Brian Thomas probably in most leagues is a starter. There are some people, George, who feel like the Jaguars are going to hit this big thud this week after their win against New England. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of looking horrible 2 weeks ago and looking okay last week. My guess is, 2 touchdowns from Jacksonville this week. I know their team total is just right around 20.
I mean, I don't want to start Lawrence, even though I think the volume would be there because they're going to be trailing in this game. I truly believe Green Bay blows them out. So they're going to be trailing. The volume should be there. So I want to start him. But what did you say earlier, which is perfect? He's 15, 16 points every week. I mean, it's not all his fault, by the way. The receivers drop touchdowns, stuff like that. But that's what he gets. The upside seems limited. And Green Bay, by the way, it's decent defense there. So I don't want to start him. I'm not starting Christian Kirk. I'm done. All right, with there. Evan Ingram, sure. Brian Thomas, yes. Although he's one of those guys who keeps dropping some touchdowns. Evan Ingram's a must start for me here. The running game, I mean, we like Bigsby, but I just don't know anything to be trailing. So is he going to be involved in the passing game? No. What you said about the Packers is perfect. Good luck with the receivers. I don't know. Dobbs, Wicks, Watson. Could be any of them there. Tucker Kraft, though, he's a tight end one for me. He goes.
Yeah. Ravens and Browns. I mean, it's pretty clear cut, although you'll want to make sure Zay Flowers is playing this week for Baltimore. I believe he didn't practice, I think, all week long. If that's the case, then Bateman is definitely in. Andrews is back in. Derrick Henry, do we need to even say, should be starting along with Lamar Jackson. So let's do the Browns here, George. Let's see here. Nick Chubb and nothing. That's what I got for Cleveland. Nick Chubb and nothing. Did I miss anybody for the Browns?
I think you missed one guy. That'd be David Njoku. I think Njoku would be the one guy I want out of Cleveland. Tight end. He was good last week. All right. I think, and Winston, unlike Watson, will use the tight end. Njoku will go for me. Listen, you could have somebody else better at tight end, but Njoku, I think overall will be a top 12 tight end this week. Other than that, on Cleveland, Nick Chubb, I mean, you probably, but he's still working himself in. He
scored last week?
Yeah, because they wanted to get him to score there. I just don't expect big things. You'll need a touchdown again. Touchdown deodorant to really pay off you. I don't want to start. That's the bottom line there. Nobody else. I may like Winston this week. There's a reason that segment's called bold prediction. All right, it doesn't mean it's going to come true here. And I don't want to start. 2 quarterback league, I might have some interest here. None of the receivers. Like I said, even Jerry Jeudy, no.
Okay. Lions defense, a lot of people feel is the best start of the week against the Tennessee Titans.
Michael
Tennessee,
Denver.
Yeah, I was thinking about them too, but just Denver doesn't score that much either. So, that game could just be a lot of running. This one, Detroit is going to throw to their linemen in this game. They don't care. They're just going to throw all over the place. Tennessee, what a disaster last week. They're up 10-0. They're on their own 40. They go for it, and then Buffalo scores 31 points in a row? What? Awful game for Tennessee. I don't know that they'll win a game the rest of the season. Ridley's questionable for the week. Mason Rudolph's the starter. I mentioned him earlier in the show. George, if Ridley is out and they don't have, I may start Boyd in this game, man. I could see a lot of come from behind just catches. Remember when Boyd was doing that with Cincinnati years ago? Whenever either Chase or Higgins was out, Boyd would be startable. I think he's going to get 10 points in fantasy. It may not be the week for him because nobody else is off. He's the only one on Tennessee. For Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, both running backs. Would you start and Laporta? Would you start a second receiver on Detroit?
I'm starting Laporta. I can't think I have anything better there. The only player I'm starting on Tennessee is Pollard. That's it. I have no other interest there. Tim Patrick is the guy I do have some interest with Detroit. He's that guy. That being said, I can't say this enough. No buys this week. All right, so I assume you can do at least have a safer option than Patrick. All right, it's not like you drafted Jameson Williams as your number 2. All right, he's probably your third wide receiver, so you should be okay there. Granted, there are injuries up the wazoo, so maybe you got screwed there.
Wazoo.
But Patrick's more of a pickup this week. Have you ever been to Wazoo? It's a nice place. Or maybe it's not a nice place. But he's the guy I want to pick up, but probably not start unless I have to. I think I'd have safer options.
Cardinals and Dolphins, it's back to Tua, back to Waddle, back to Hill, A-Chain, maybe Mostert. Cardinals. I mean, Kyler Murray in a rough game ended up being okay because of the late score that he had last week. But I guess I'm a little surprised, George, that Arizona's offense hasn't been as good as I thought they would be. I feel like I've been saying that forever, by the way. Who do you start on Arizona?
Well, you said outside of the rushing, he's not throwing the football well at all, or not throwing it, whatever. It's just not working out. And that's concerning. He threw 145 yards in that game. All right, 214, 195, 142, 207. He does have one start of 266 against the Rams. The other one was 162. So other than that one start, which is an outlier right now, you're lucky to get 200 yards. You need those rushing yards from him. Other than that, he's just not going to pay off fantasy-wise. Yeah. That being said, you're probably still starting him. You're starting Trey McBride. Not getting the touchdowns, but the volume is there. We're just getting a little lucky with the touchdowns. James Conner, you're starting. Marvin Harrison, I'd rather not this week. depending on what you have. He's not a drop, as we said earlier. He's just a guy I don't want to start this week. I will hold on to him, though.
All right, Falcons, Buccaneers. Falcons, very clear cut. Bijan Robinson, London, Pitts, Cousins in some leagues. Which Bucks do you start, George, outside of Baker Mayfield, borderline QB1? Rashad White is a yes, I'm guessing. Bucky Irving, I know he's been banged up, but I'm guessing he is a start too. Any starting wide receivers for Tampa Bay in for you this week?
I dropped Mayfield in the quarterback 2 range, by the way, so he would not be an automatic start, depending on what else you have on your roster or on the waiver wire this week. I would not drop him, by the way. I'm just saying, well, I'd rather not start him this week. Be careful with Irving. All right, he's questionable. All right, we heard some interesting reports about him. All right, so I would be worried about him that he might not go there. I'd rather have Rashad White, because I think they will have to throw the ball a bunch, and Rashad White is the receiving guy there. Kate Otten, I like a bunch here. You guys, what receiver? McMillan. If I had a choice of the other guys besides the stars, McMillan would be that guy.
Yeah, agree. All right, we'll take a quick time out on Fantasy Sports Today. Our daily fantasy look at some of the pricing is next. Don't go away.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game when it was the worst flare screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. So here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like this that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will should react to it and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Time to set a lineup in daily fantasy. Do you need some tips? George and I will provide. It's time now to play a little game of buy or sell. How do you not buy on our first one here? Jordan Love, 7,100 is his price this week for the Green Bay Packers per game in the NFL. No one is throwing more touchdowns per game than Jordan Love. The only thing is George, normally in these situations in fantasy, the experts will tell you build a stack with Jordan Love and his receivers. You can't really do that with Love, so that makes it interesting for me. I'm still a buy at 7,100 on Jordan Love, but I'm not a buy on stacking. It's interesting how, by the way, Wicks has come on a little bit, as you've mentioned, but maybe it's setting multiple lineups. Love with Dobbs, Love with Reed, Love with Wicks. But just one lineup? You got a 33% chance of hitting the right guy here.
And you left out Christian Watson, by the way, so he's very hurt. That's the bottom line is you don't know which one. But actually, you probably did nail the strategy. If you want to stack, you're playing multiple lineups, right? And go one of each here, and you really hope. I don't mind that, by the way, because I do expect Green Bay to like I said, beat the snot out of Jackson. I think they're going to score a bunch of points here. So I have no problem with Love at 7,100. He's the 5th highest quarterback there with Jackson, Allen, Hurts, Daniels above him there. Certainly wouldn't play Daniels till we hear more.
Right.
Burrow, I think, is also a guy here. He's $100 cheaper. So if you want to go that direction, I'm good with that as well. That's probably as low as I would go. So I'm spending at least $7,000 on a quarterback this week. And Love's only 7,100. Lamar Jackson is the highest at 8. All right. And I don't mind you. Listen, I don't mind you going with him either. My only thing about Lamar Jackson, that game against Cleveland could get out of hand early, and they don't need much from him in the second half. Right? So you think about it that way as well. Josh Allen should do damage against Seattle. Jalen Hurts against Cincinnati. We think it's going to be a shootout there. But Love is probably my safest play of the top quarterbacks. And so I say you're saving at least $900. So yes, I'm a buy. Buy.
All right. Tampa Bay, 5,700 for Rachaad White. Head coach Todd Bowles said he was going to roll with the hot hand, a coach that actually told the truth. That's what it looked like last week in Tampa Bay, although Bucky Irving, I think Bucky Irving probably had the better fantasy day of those two. Tucker didn't see a ton of time. George, I think White's price for me is a buy, but I'm going to wait on Sunday because I'll hit the buy button here. But if Bucky Irving is playing on Sunday and he appears to be healthy, then it's probably it's not a buy or a sell. I'm just not going to buy this guy or sell the guy. I just think he's right down the middle for me.
I wish we had an actual buy or sell button here. We go slam it down, right? That'd be great. I would find that. Yeah, right. I know. Maybe next year we'll get that. I probably break the damn thing eventually anyway. He's 5,700 for those who don't realize. Barkley, the highest, 8,300. I think it's an incredible bargain. Once again, I keep saying it throughout the show, I think Tampa Bay gets smacked on Sunday. But that's good news for Rachaad White, right? Because they're going to have to throw the football. What did we see Monday night? They got smacked. And they were throwing the ball to Rachaad White left and right. I understand Baltimore didn't care about him. We're not going to cover you. All right, you do whatever you want. All right, that probably won't happen in this game, but the volume should be there. I said you're saving a ton of money here, which should allow you to really hit the other positions hard if you so desire here, or to get a great second running back, whichever way you want to do here. This is a buy for me. All right, and by the way, said earlier, Bucky Irving, we don't know he's going to play. All right, which would be more good news. I know it's you got Sean Tucker there too. I'm really not worried about him. I think this is a great buy. Buy.
All right, Keon Coleman. Who would have thought Keon Coleman at the end of the season is going to end up producing as one of the top rookie wide receivers? You wouldn't have had that one a few weeks ago. And by the way, they have Amari Cooper now too. But why is it, George, that every week Coleman is finding the end zone? He's not doing much, but finding the end zone. He's 5,600 this week. Is the addition of Cooper going to help him out even more? Is it going to take away from him? They keep telling us that Khalil Shakir is the number one guy. Maybe he gets the most targets. But every time I watch this guy Coleman play, he's running down the sideline in the end zone.
Now that they've acquired Cooper, they sort of have it perfectly. Cooper's your number one wide receiver. That guy is, he's going to catch the 20-yard curls, the 18-yard curls, the ins, the outs there. Coleman's your deep guy, right? He's got the speed guy who's going to be that guy to clear out the safeties. All right, they're running the fly patterns, the posts, stuff like that. Shakir is the intermediate, that little quick guy, right? Running quick little slants here. It makes the Buffalo offense so much better now. They've got what they needed here when they got Cooper. That being said, Coleman, he's a sell for me, all right, because I just don't know if he's going to get that big play each week, because that's what he needs. I do think this game against Seattle is somewhat of a shootout on Sunday, but not big enough. Right, I'm going to think, Coleman's he's going to do well here. He's a guy most weeks I'm not going to put in my line unless I have a gut feel, because I don't like putting in guys. Coleman is sort of a poor man's Jameson Williams. You need that big play. He doesn't get it. The volume's not there. You shot. Now that being said, if he has that day where he catches 2 touchdowns for 220 yards, well, hey, right. You probably just won your contest. So he's that guy if that's what you're looking for.
All right, finally, let's go to tight end and quarterback situation in Washington, a little murky as of right now. Zach Ertz is 4,200 priced this week. George, Zach Ertz, I'm sorry to say, has 1 touchdown all season long. This is a sell. I'll find somebody at 3,800. I'll find somebody at 4,300. I don't care that Mariota maybe throws to the tight end more. Nothing against you, Zach Ertz, but I mean, we played 7 games in the NFL season. I understand it has been a horrible tight end season again, but this guy only has 25 catches and 1 touchdown. I'll dip down even lower to try and get some upside here. Zach Ertz is going to catch 3 balls for 35 yards this week. That's it.
But Craig, he caught a touchdown last week. He's hot. He's the hot guy. Mariota threw it to him. He loves him. I agree. All right, he's a sell. All right, listen. I don't mind Ertz in a fantasy league. He'll be okay for you, but the upside is limited there. So I am with Craig here. I am selling Zach Ertz. There are other guys I'd rather go for this week. I know tight ends killed us all this year. Lord knows Craig and I crushed us every week. All right, complaining about Andrews, complaining about Pitts, complaining about this guy Laporte, who's on the back of a milk carton, Kincaid, who we expected more from. But even if I'm spending a couple $100 more, I'll take Cole Kmet and the year he's had.
Yeah,
all right, he's especially in the red zone, he's used a lot. Tucker Kraft, I mentioned, $400 more. I think he'll do well for Green Bay. So yeah, I'm with you. He's a sell here. I like Ertz. He's a nice guy, but I don't want him starting for my in one of my contests.
Yeah, one other quick note that came down Friday that we should mention. We didn't mention him at all on the show. Jonathan Taylor expected to play for the Indianapolis Colts coming up on Sunday. We'll take a quick time out and wrap it all up next. You're watching Fantasy Sports Today. Don't go away.
Talk about how these series came to a head and what has been happening in this postseason for the Yanks. Offensively, it hasn't been Aaron Judge.
Baseball is such a big win here. All you ask for, East Coast Monster City, West Coast Monster City, the biggest of biggest Titan superstars on both sides here, two mammoth fan bases. The entire country can buy into this one.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. We got the SportsGrid 60 coming up, but George, got a question for you here. You know, fantasy football, we're halfway through the season, more than half for a lot of fantasy players. Regular season, we still got a long way to go. NBA started this week. NHL started a couple of weeks ago. Maybe this is going to be the easiest question for you to answer because I know you're more of a hockey guy than the NBA. But when was the last time that you played in a season-long NBA or NHL fantasy league?
Well, I've never played in an NBA fantasy league. I'm an NHL guy. My home league, NHL, has been running for, more math, 33 years. All right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an old-time league. I am not the commissioner of it, although I run the day-to-day operations of it.
How do you have time for this? How do you have time to be the day-to-day guy in fantasy hockey? You're literally working at SportsGrid 18 hours a day.
I just mentioned during the break, there's a controversy during the show because a certain player, the site, we use CBS, changed his position. I guess this could happen in any fantasy league. And he changed, it was Clayton Keller of the Utah Hockey Club. He was a wing, and now they made him a center. out of nowhere. And I just contacted CBS. Oh, well, he's listed as a center on NHL.com. Strange. I don't know why he's not a center, but that's something I'll worry about for another day. Yes, it's a daily league as well, so it's a lot of work.
Wow.
Yeah, I love the hockey. Listen, this is what we do. This is we're sports people.
I know,
baseball,
but how do
football.
you have a day-to-day hockey league? I mean, like baseball.
What about day-to-day baseball? It's the same thing.
No,
Granted, hockey never ends, by the way.
Baseball, I know that I got easy football coming. If I had hockey day-to-day, I mean, that means you're running it every single day. You're making lineup changes in fantasy for 365 days. I can't do that.
You have to remember, I work nights. And you want to know what the last thing I do after I do the video clipping for us on whatever show, Sports Rage? I set my hockey lineup. It's my routine. I set my hockey lineup for the next day so I don't forget. I love it. I truly do. When I own the fan for those who don't know, and they're terrible.
I don't play hockey. The last time I played in a season-long fantasy basketball league, it's got to be at least 15 years. Maybe not that long. It's got to be a long time. In high school, we ran a fantasy basketball league, and the teachers were in it and stuff. It was crazy. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, this is true. The teachers were in it. We had a full draft. We had it in the library. I mean, we're going way far back. Now, look, obviously daily fantasy has taken over for all of these leagues, but that was the last time I played basketball, and I've never done a fantasy hockey league. Like, I don't even think I've considered it. No, never.
I'm hurt. You're no longer my friend.
Maybe next
year. You're just a co-worker. That's it.
All right. Well, that's moving up the ranks.
Didn't your Panthers win the Stanley Cup? You should be into hockey.
I know. Yeah, they have a couple guys I know. Bob, he's good. He's a good goaltender.
Fantastic.
Bobrovsky, right? He's the fastest ever to something. I know that. I noticed that the other day. Fastest ever what? Wins? Is it? I don't know.
I don't know. I'd have to check. I don't know what he's the fastest.
Oh, Mr. Hockey Expert doesn't know about Bob.
Wow, just hurts.
Here's a SportsGrid 60. Here's George.
I'm sure I have complained about this before. It's not Craig, although I will complain about him again. Sam Yarnell, our fantastic producer, by the way, talked about during the break, the NFL bye weeks. I'll truly never understand. We were trying to figure out why there's no byes this week. And apparently Sam found out that it was something about the England games and that's all crap. I never understood, Craig, why they start the byes in week 5. Okay, week 5 we have byes. The AFC East is off. Week 6, the AFC North. Week 7, the South, and so on and so on. And it's rotated every year. And it's even. So everybody's had, once every 8 years, you've had one of those 8 weeks off. I don't understand why they can't do that. Hey, I still wouldn't mind going further, by the way, and have a Thursday night game the week after. Are those teams playing each other? One of them. So this way, nobody has to worry about, this team had more rest or less rest, or I only had 3 days rest. He would have had the full after the bye. I think that'd be very fair here. The NFL will never do that because they don't care about fairness. They only care about money. But I'm still wondering why there are no buys this week. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's 2 1 week, 7 the next week, 9. It just drives me insane how they run the bye weeks.
Our vice president of programming, Greg Sussman, always makes fun of me because anything happens in sports, I'm going to say that I met that guy, and it still remains true. Rest in peace, Fernando Valenzuela. I had a chance to meet him many times when he was a broadcaster with the Los Angeles Dodgers and did have the box of cornflakes that he was on in the 1980s. Thanks again to our producer, Sam. For George Kurtz, I'm Craig Mish. Enjoy the football weekend. We'll see you next week.